but we will move on formally to our regular AppDate feature. We heard on Friday that on Thursday, the 24th of September, the app is going national. I can confirm it is going to continue to be known as the NHS Covid-19 App. There was some discussion about whether that was the right name, but all of the consultation in Newham has confirmed it is. So I'm just going to put on a 2-minute film from our own Sahira Khan. It's excerpted from a longer film, which you can find on our films page or indeed our highlights and links page. And that longer film, WhatsApp Auntie, will tell you everything you need to know about the app. So this is just about one aspect.
WhatsApp Auntie.
What are you looking at?
The new NHS Covid-19 App, Auntie.
What's that?
It's a new way to fight coronavirus using our phones. It'll help everyone to protect each other and save lives. Let me explain. The app works in 6 different ways. If you become ill, the app helps you to check if you have coronavirus symptoms. If you do have coronavirus symptoms, the app helps you to book a test. This test can be carried out at home, at a walk-in centre, or at a drive-in centre. If you do test positive for coronavirus, you tell the app on your phone. Then you isolate, which is stay at home alone, for 2 weeks after your symptoms started. After that, you should no longer be infectious. While you're isolating, the app provides you with advice and support. Isolating is essential to stop the virus spreading. The app tells all of the phones that have been closer to you than 2 meters for at least 15 minutes over the past 2 weeks. The apps on those phones then alert their owners to isolate in case they're infected too. They can then book their own tests using the app.
Will you help me to install the app now, please?
Yes, of course, Auntie. Support the app. Support the NHS. Save lives.
So that was Sahira Khan with Radhika Bainan and Sarifa Patel doing the voiceovers. I think, everybody realizes that over the last week, the situation has got much more serious. So it's great to see that the app is almost ready to go. We're very proud to be able to, trial it and give as much feedback as possible. That process is still taking place in Newham. So if you live in Newham and you haven't downloaded the app yet, it's very simple and straightforward. Do have a go. Let us know, or indeed let the app team know directly. How did you find it? Was there anything that you found confusing? Was there anything unclear? Was there anything else you would have liked to have seen? How easy was it? Did you find any aspect inaccessible? If you're a business and you've been asked to print a QR code poster, how was that for you? But if you don't live in Newham, we still want to know, generally speaking, what do you love about apps? What do you loathe about apps? What are your favorite art apps? And anything else that you think you can tell us that could be of help. We know there are problems with the testing and so on. I think that's just inevitable when the whole country and indeed the whole world is competing to set up systems that they've never done before and they had no notice of. But if you look at the effectiveness of the app, if just 1 in 5 of us downloaded it, it would be more effective on its own than test and trace on its own. So it really, really shows the benefit. And if you look at the test and test and trace data at the moment. Sorry, I have a aphasia, which really doesn't help on these occasions. If you look at that data, a lot of people can't supply their contacts because they don't know who they were. You know, they sat next to somebody on a train for an hour and a half, but obviously they don't know who they were. But your phone will know. And of course, this system is so great because it is completely anonymous. All of the data is stored on your phone. None of that data gets shared. And if you do test positive and you give them permission, again, it's the phone that is doing the contacting. None of those contacts are passed on directly. How's it been under the new lockdown rules in the West Midlands over the weekend, guys?
Well, I mean, I think the first thing I want to say is about the app is I think we have to do everything to promote it positively. And as soon as, you know, if you can get someone from your way to do some, 15-second pieces just saying it worked for me, we've done this, how easy it was, to really engender trust in the process, because as you've just said, you know, there is some testing issues, and we want to make sure that there is faith in the process of using the app. Otherwise people just won't use it, and that would be disastrous irrespective of the financial cost. In terms of Birmingham, I mean, I think not a huge amount of change from our point of view, because we've, like yourselves, we haven't been doing lots of, you know, partying as such. You know, the sports stuff is going on because it is in that controlled, safe environment. But I think I only think it's a good thing that they're not, you know, they want to make sure that they prioritize schools over pubs, for example. I mean, whether, you know, it is really, really important. The biggest change, I think, is that they've announced that in school children, senior school children, now have to wear masks when transferring anywhere around the school. So the only time they shouldn't be wearing masks is in classroom, and when obviously eating their lunches when they're in that static position.
Yeah, I know kind of obviously Birmingham has additional lockdown things, which I think come into effect tomorrow. Why they waited kind of 4 days, 5 days, it's a separate conversation. But anyway,
no publicity.
Yeah, there's no real publicity, and kind of things that I've seen or kind of heard on local news, or, you know, joke, you know, things on Facebook or whatever that you see through the friend of a friend of a friend. It's like, well, they're not going to know, are they? And it's like, that's not the attitude that we need, I think. But on a positive, you know, with the app, you know, it's launched at the end of September, which is great because that's going to kind of coincide with universities going back. I think Welcome Week is this week or next week for lots of places. So, you know, you've got a kind of huge influx of young people into a city, and they're going to be mixing as much as universities are kind of doing their best to do things online and stuff like that. You know, you've still got to kind of move into uni accommodation, and there's going to be things that you kind of have to go to in person, you know, to kind of enroll and all those types of things, you know, pick up all your stuff. You know, having the app in place for that, or at least around that time, you know, assuming it gets good uptake, is going to be so important. And the uptake of it at that point is going to be so important, because
sorry to interrupt you, I'm just going to put your camera on solo so Julie can get out our assistant's dog, or one of them barking. So I didn't want to do that in case you thought we had suddenly got lost from the broadcast.
Yeah, that's fine.
Of course. So we may or may not see Julie again after the film that follows this. Yes, I mean, I think the great thing about the app, like I say, is it's automated. It's not dependent on anybody else. I'm going to say.
Yeah, I think what Drew was saying, you know, the app runs in the background. You know, you don't really need to, other than kind of the initial sign up and put in where you are, in order to kind of for your local area, and then it can direct you, you know, if it needs to. That, you know, you don't need to kind of go in and say day to day, I was at home for 6 hours and I was somewhere else, all you need to do is kind of walk in, scan a code on the wall,
Yeah.
pop your phone away, that's it.
I mean, I would hope that actually the student unions and are being given like a whole positive role in making sure that all students are aware of it and what have you, so that it has actually go out to everybody, to as many people, and so that the unions themselves, so the university buildings, for example, and bars, make it almost a compulsory thing, so it becomes almost habitual. Or look, there's the QR code. I'll go and do it.
Yeah, and I think
compulsory, and I think that's something to be clear about what they call hospitality venues. If it's something like a student bar, a restaurant, or a cafe, one of the changes the government announced last week was that it is now compulsory to take people's details. What the app developers are hoping is that the app will be classified as a medical device. Now, if it is classified as a medical device and you use the app, you won't have to leave your details manually. And I think for people who are concerned about privacy, that really is going to be helpful. But of course, there's no promises. The critical thing is if you go into a venue, they have to know how to contact you. And if that's able to be done anonymously through the app, how brilliant. I mean, I've already noticed that I get a weekly text just saying to me that I've not come into contact with anybody who's infected. One of the reasons I find that comforting is I know I haven't.
Yeah.
But
it's nice to kind of have that reassurance almost.
Well, what it reassures me is that the app works.
Well, yeah, that as well.
That's the reassuring thing.
Yeah.
As long as it keeps telling me I haven't sat within 2 meters of somebody for 15 minutes or longer when I know I haven't, that to me is just kind of the icing on the cake to say that this is working. But it's based on a Google and Apple system that's already been trialed around the UK and elsewhere. I think there's not really much that isn't going to be as good as it can get without mass rollout. And of course, once you get millions of people using it, of course there's going to be tweaks, but every app is tweaked. I mean, it's just par for the course, isn't it? What art apps? I know you have been talking about an app that you're learning to draw with, and you've also been watching videos. Have you got any more information you'd like to share with us about that, Josh?
Yeah, I've been using Sketchbook initially, which is a free app that has kind of different drawing tools in it. There's kind of the whole range of brushes from kind of, fine liner or pencil through to basically kind of watercolor, splashes. It's all digital, so you can get that kind of, washed out kind of blotty style, but you don't have to actually kind of do anything for it. You don't need to know how to mix on the paint. You can just select your color, and then it has guides. If you want to draw a straight line, you can press a button and it'll give you a thing, and then you just put it where you want and then draw wherever, and it will only draw on where that line is.
That sounds much more straightforward than some of the apps I've used. I use Photoshop a lot for my photography, but I found anything that involves drawing lines and freehand in those apps I find really, really difficult. So Sketchbook sounds much more straightforward.
Yeah, and then I was gonna say I've now started trying Photoshop as well, just to kind of see the differences between the two. Kind of, Sketchbook has things that I prefer over Photoshop. Photoshop has things that I prefer over Sketchbook. I will say I found it easier using Photoshop. Two lovely people brought me a starter graphics tablet for my birthday a few weeks ago. So I've been kind of playing around with that and kind of learning how to use that, and that's a weird experience. But what I found works quite well for me, or I'm practicing, is actually drawing it on paper, kind of drawing it physically, scanning that in, and then almost tracing my own drawing. kind of copying the lines digitally, which gives you the really clean kind of breaks. Then you can go and kind of color it in or whatever, rather than trying to draw it freehand straight into the app, because I just wasn't very good. So I've been kind of doing it that way, just still drawing it myself, but then kind of scanning in that pencil drawing and then using that as a guide, which I was found varying success with.
Well, that sounds wonderful. I'm going to ask you next time to maybe do a bit of a screenshot or screen recording rather, and to show us a bit more. So that brings our update to a conclusion for today. I'm going to